Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I am filming my February wrap up and it's the first wrap up at home for a really long time, as you can see, and it's really strange for me to come home because I read most of these books on Kindle even though I have physical copies, not of all of them though, and it was just weird to look at my physical copies and feel like I haven't read a book, but I did read a book. It was a strange experience for me for some reason. In February was also Blackathon and I had a TBR for this, and I read all of my books on my TBR except my second audiobook because I didn't have time to listen to audiobook that much in February. Even though I traveled and everything, I just didn't finish it, so that will probably be in my March wrap up. Sorry TBR, but it's fine since it was an audiobook. Then I'm like, I will accept that one. I was gonna say defeat. I will wrap up all the books for Blackathon first and then go into the other random books that I read in the month. My goal is still 300 for 2020, but I only managed to read 22 in February as well because when I came home in the end of the month and also when I had to move and pack, I didn't read that much, so I'm kind of like even more behind than I already was, but it will be fine. It's fine. It's fine. So I only read, as I said, 22 books and it would take forever to talk about them, so I will be quick. I'll try to be quick at least. The main issue with reading so many books actually is remembering what they were all about because it's so many books ago since you read it, but I will try. The first book I read for Blackathon and for February was Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds. This one is a contemporary slash kind of sci-fi because he has sci-fi elements in it, and it follows Jack, who at the party meets this girl named Kate and they fall in love pretty quickly. She's really the girl meant to be with him, but then Kate dies and suddenly Jack goes back in time and he thinks this is to be able to save Kate from dying, and he does this over and over and over again, and we see different possibilities of the world, and it was just so down to earth and heartful, and I was just like so emotional the whole way through. I was really like loved it in the beginning, but at the point I didn't get so tired of like going back to time at all, but in those kinds of stories there's always those cliches when you go back in time, and the characters always does these super questionable character choices that I really don't like, and when it came to those character choices the main character did them and I was like, why would you do that? And it made me very pissed, not because like what I wanted to happen didn't happen, just because like it was out of character. But overall the whole book was just beautiful, not just about like the romance between Kate and Jack, but about life and friendship and family, and like I was on board the whole time except when we came kind of to the end. Then I was just like, why are we doing this? That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the book, and I think I would give it like 4.25, almost 4.5 out of 5 stars. I then read The Bells by Danielle Clayton, and this one is a YA dystopia, and we are set in a, I assume, futuristic world where beauty is kind of everything. We follow Camellia, who is one of the bells, and she can control beauty. That is what they're trained up to do when they grow up. They are the bells, and they can adjust facial features, hair color, like your whole body after the trends, and they kind of set the trends. There is always one favorite in every year as they grow up and graduate. They work directly under the royal family, and of course the main character Amelia wants to be the favorite, but alas she doesn't, and then other circumstances happen and there's reveals of what's really going on. The whole system of the bells, there's many secrets there that has been covered up for many years. She realizes that being a bell is maybe not as wonderful and beautiful as she always thought it was. Also, like the whole procedure, the whole thought of beauty, the reflections upon that, what a society would do to be beautiful, like we do in our society almost, and what we think is beautiful. It was like kind of insane to just read about it and how these procedures went, what people did to become beautiful. I was just like, whoa, people, you are intense. And I'm thinking that we are kind of in a society like that. Not as intense, of course, because in this world the bells have skin color and like colorful, but the other normal people don't have color on them, so they need to be like filled in or else they turn kind of gray. And if you're like gray and you don't get your procedure and fix yourself, then you're like basically an outcast in society. So of course it's not like that in our world, exactly like that, but just the reflections and thoughts about that, what we would do for beauty and just how it works in a society like that. It was very fascinating. I think it was done really, really well. I also just really liked, you know, the reveals that we got and how the story developed after a while, and I'm excited to continue the rest of the series when I manage to pick it up. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I then read Dear Martin by Nick Stone. This one follows Justice, who almost get arrested or at least put in handcuffs after he tries to help his ex-girlfriend, and a police drives by and handcuffs him for no reason for hours. And after that, which was quite a traumatic experience, he looks up to Martin Luther King Jr. and like writes letters to him and wants to live like him, not exactly live like him, but live by his ideals, to be accepting and not go into the despair in the world and the injustice of what he went through. And in this book we go through a lot of like discussion about police brutality and racism and white privilege and all that, and we see different perspectives from his peers and from his friend and what they go through, and there's a lot of different experiences, and then the book takes a lot of different turns. It's very heartbreaking. It's very, very short, but very, very impactful. I just wish the world didn't suck as much. I really did enjoy it, and there's kind of like a sequel companion coming out later this year, which I'm really excited for. I really like how Nick Stone writes. It's of course a very important book that you can learn a lot from and see different important perspective of. I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars. I then read Odd One Out, also by Nick Stone, and this one doesn't follow the super tragic themes of like police brutality, etc. as Dear Martin did. Like, it's not a serious theme because this is more of like a romance drama novel, and it was very different from her first book, which is great. And this one is split into 3 different perspectives, and one part of the book is dedicated to each character, and we don't hear from them again. Like, we see the first part of the story from one perspective, and the next one from another, and next one from another. So we have Courtney, who is a black boy, and he is in love with his best friend Jupiter, but Jupiter is lesbian. And then also we introduce Ray, who is biracial Asian, and Jupiter is also black, by the way. Jupiter starts to fall in love with Ray, and Ray, is she in love with Jupiter or is she in love with Courtney? So they kind of all like fall for each other, I would say, and it's just like this mush of complicated things, and it was just so teenager, so relatable to like not have everything figured out, and like knowing your sexuality, knowing your preferences, knowing who and what to like. I would say like it was a beautiful representation of that, and also bring with other diversity, race of course, and I just really enjoyed it. Like, I saw like mixed things about it, but I thought it was very enjoyable. I thought it was very, very teenager, and it's a YA novel, so why wouldn't it be? And I thought like the insecurities and the different questions that I had are very, very relatable as a teen. I thought it was well done and very entertaining, even though yes, please just talk to each other. 4 out of 5 stars for this one as well. I didn't read that many books for Blackathon because I didn't have that many on my Kindle and audio, etc. But the last one I read for Blackathon for February was The Obelisk Gate by Anki Jemison. This is the sequel to the 5th season, and I listened to this on audiobook. In this world, there are these kinds of people who can control kinda the earth and make, for example, earthquakes, etc. They are really feared but also needed because there come these seasons that makes basically the hand inhabitable, and I think they can kind of control it, not really control it, but maybe tell when it's coming. I'm still so confused of what's actually going on, but also things are being revealed and like put together, and I'm just like on the ride. I only have one book left in the series, and it's one of the most original ways to tell a story, and also just original in its world building, its plot and everything. I never read anything similar to it, and I think it's amazing what Jemison has created. I never can guess what is happening, not just because I'm confused all the time, but also just because it's impossible to guess what's happening, really. I also give this 4 out of 5 stars. And now I am going to talk about the rest of the books I read for the month, so not Blackathon anymore. And the first one of those is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, and it's so strange to hold this book and feel like I did not read it because I read it on Kindle. It's strange. This one follows Kaoru, which I for some reason can't pronounce, and she has grown up in the human world but also in this other place because the people who raised her are kinda demons, creature things that have like animal parts, and she has been working / raised for them for a long time, but she does study in the human world as an art major. She has never understood like what exactly the people who raised her do and like where they come from. She never known all this all her life, and then suddenly one day the door to the place that they go to, which is a door that can appear basically anywhere, is closed, and she meets this angel Akiva, who kinda has answers but also not, because she's trying to find her way back to them. And it turns out a lot of different things is going on with her family, and they have a lot of history and secrets, and the same with the angels, and like there's just so many things revealed. Like there was a part of these books that I guess I kind of like could guess at once, but that's basically because it's given to us. But there was just like also parts that I would never guess what was actually going on, like what the family actually did, etc. If you don't know, Strange to Dreamer, which is the newest series by Lady Taylor, is like one of my favorite series of all time. I did enjoy this. The writing is beautiful, just as always. She writes so beautiful and original, even though it does fall into some of the things you have seen in like all the YA and stuff before, which is like fine. I love YA for a reason. It's just Strange to Dreamer was just something entirely else. Just saying. I did enjoy this a lot, and I gave it like 4 out of 5 stars, and it's not like I disliked it or anything. It's just not as good as Strange to Dreamer, and I would see how I feel about the rest of the series as I read the rest of the trilogy. But it was good. It was good, okay? It was just parts of it that was like, okay, and like I kind of like didn't like what we found out about the main character, because it was just so typical, but the rest of the book was good and great. Yeah. I then read Enchantress by Gita Trelease. I'm sorry. And this one is set in Paris in 1789. And it's an historical fiction with fantasy, because the main character can use magic, and she is named Camille. She's from a very poor family after her parents pass away, and she's trying to provide for her older brother, who is just drinking and gambling away all the money, and her younger sister Sophie. So it's basically about her surviving. She finds out that she had this magical dress and can go into court to Versailles, is that what it's called, where she can like get money and gamble and stuff to get money. And it sounds beautiful and wonderful, and I had like really high expectations for it. I thought it was gonna be great, but I kind of like didn't like it at all. It's like, I think, one of my least favorite reads for this month. It was very disappointing. There was nothing about the story that kept me engaged and interested. It was just a lot of like, I don't even know what was going on, and like the reveals and like the villain or whatever we call it was just like, it felt like nothing. It just felt like literally Disney villain put into the page. It didn't like give any interesting aspects for the story. It had its great elements, but it just didn't give me anything. I just felt nothing. I don't know. I know why I was so bored and frustrated with the book when I was reading it, but now it's like almost a month ago, so I'm sorry. Like with the magic and like the historical setting and everything, it should be like beautiful and wondrous. I just read like The Gilded Wolves by Washington Chalk. She's set also in Paris. I don't exactly remember the year, but like in historical fiction, and that was just beautiful and wonderful, but this just felt so flat. The characters was also just very uninteresting, and the whole thing was just uninteresting. I don't understand how it managed to be that, but at least this book was not for me at all. I think I ended up giving it like 2 out of 5 stars. I then read Crimson Bite by Ben Allison and Daniela Rose. This one is the first book in the Hillcrest Supernatural series, and we follow a vampire and a witch. And the vampire and witches are kinda in a peace treaty thing where like the vampires are not allowed to kill people, obviously. But the book starts out with the main character, Savi, who is the vampire, killing someone, and they just casually did this, even though they have this whole peace treaty thing. And it just starts off really weird because of this, because apparently she has been doing it before, and she's like, oh, but I can't control myself. But I was just like, if you've been doing this all along, why has whatever. It turns out a really big deal, like they need to find out who was doing this, and also George, who is the witch, needs to figure out like his powers, etc., because he starts to maybe go into darker kinds of magic instead of only elemental magic. And like the whole thing it's very, very short and has a bird weird ending. That is the first thing I want to say. But all the elements and everything just felt really strange and off. It could have been much more interesting, but alas, it wasn't. I feel like more things could have been developed, etc. But like, it's supposed to be short because I think it's just gonna be 6 short installments, because like publish dates between them is only like 3 months or something, so that's fine. But it was just these weird fights and just these weird conflicts because of the whole 3D thing, and then like they killed like kind of werewolf as well, and then it's just like, oh, we did this and now we need to hide it. And I just felt like I didn't feel impactful of the 3D since no one actually cared about it. So like, how did it manage to be there for that long? That's what I mean. It just didn't make sense to me. I think I gave it like 2.5 out of 5 stars. I then read Beyond the Darkened Shore by Jessica Leake, and this one follows Kiara, who is the princess of this one tiny kingdom, and she has the ability to go into people's minds and control them. Then they get invaded by these northerners that keeps like invading and raping and killing and stealing the stuff, basically Vikings, okay? And then one of them, instead of killing him, she captures because this crow tells her to do so, and they are the only ones who can stop the monsters from Jotunheim to invade, and like basically they are gonna stop the Ragnarok from Northern mythology, so it's kind of inspired a lot by that as well. We see gods and creatures from Celtic myths and also from Northern mythology, so it was interesting like that. And I don't know what was with this book, except that it was very insta-lovey, and like they were trying very hard to be like, oh, but we are enemies so we can't be together, even though it was so obvious that they were going to be together. So I was just like, please. I just don't know how I feel about this, because it feels so long and it feels like nothing is happening. Like they take like 100 pages to just like travel. Then also at the same time, so many things went down. Like we go through a whole story here. Feels like a negative thing to feel like I read like a 600 page book in 400 pages, but also like it means that the author managed to put all these things into just this one story, which like is good, but it also just felt like sometimes that nothing was happening. And when we finally got to like the end, the battle, the showdown, it was just like so flat because I was just so tired. I don't know why. Like it has so many different and interesting elements, and the characters and everything, like everything could be interesting, but for me I just felt very uninterested, which is a word I keep using in this video. And I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. Like I didn't hate it, and like I think it's a fine book, but like I also just felt like very neutral to the whole thing. I then finally read Batman Nightwalker by Maria Lu, and this one is the second book in the DC Icon series, which has like Wonder Woman, Batman, Catwoman and Superman, which is all written by known different YA authors. And this one is of course about Batman and Bruce Wayne and like him before he's even Batman. And in this one he kind of races in his car and needs to do community service at the Arkham Asylum in Gotham, obviously. And there's this whole plot going on and like him investigating and doing all this before he's even Batman. And it's very, very short. It's only like 250 pages long, and I just really, really enjoyed it. I love Batman, so obviously I'm biased. I saw people not enjoying it because it was very short and it feels like you don't really get any Batman content in that sense, but it's like just supposed to be him as a teenager and like just see him how he would develop into Batman, and I loved it. And I just loved seeing all the characters and just being with Bruce and Alfred and Gotham. I thought it was very, very good. It was an impactful story in just 250 pages, and I thought that was great work to be able to do that. So I give it like 4 out of 5 stars. I'm kind of biased to this, but I don't care because I love it. I love Batman so much. Yeah, it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I then read Blood Rose, also by Danielle Rose. There's a rose in the title and in the last name. This one also follows witches and vampires, just like the last book by her. This one follows Ava, who has been chosen to get the power of the witches, because this is a power to be able to defeat the vampires, because they have been at war with the vampires for like forever. But then they get attacked by vampires under the ceremony, and she chooses for some reason to be turned into a vampire. I don't get this book. This book just didn't make sense because they have been at war with the vampires for like centuries and are just basically raised to like go out and hunt them and kill them. But she chooses to become one. But like what? Like I know she's afraid of dying and all that. And then she chooses to become one, and then she gets pissed that her family like shuts her out because she's a vampire when they at war with the vampires. It didn't make any sense. And then of course none of the vampires actually trusts her except the dude that is horny on her. Then like at a point of the book, like she does like this one thing and then suddenly all the vampires love her. It just didn't make sense to me. I was like, what? Like if you hate a species, you don't become that species. I mean, I guess she was desperate. The whole thing just didn't make sense to me, like the character decisions and like the world building and like apparently the two groups of vampires, like the evil ones and the nice ones. And in all the years that the witches had existed, I think they said the word war for like 1,000 years or something. They never figured this out. There's like, this is a reveal. She's like, oh, we don't really know anything about vampires. We just at war with them. What? How can you not know anything about the people you're war with? I get it, like people are ignorant. But this was just like deep level ignorant. They are people with magic. How can they not know this? It just didn't make sense to me. I was like kind of entertained at times, but like, yeah, the world was interesting and I felt like the vampires and stuff was interesting, etc. But like, the rest just didn't make sense to me. I give it like 2 out of 5 stars, so meh. Then read Onyx and Ivory by Mindy Arnett, and this one is so pretty. You can see the sprayed edges. I did read it on my Kindle though, but like this book is very pretty. I realized. This one follows Kate, and Kate has been branded a traitor because her father was a traitor a long time ago and tried to assassinate the king, and she had kind of left the city that she came from, or the kingdom she came from, has been living and working somewhere else when she encounters the crown prince again, who she had a thing with, by the way, when she was still living in the palace because her father was the stable master. And they are also fighting these night drakes, which comes out at night and kills people and stuff, and like the people with magic can of course ward against them, but like it's a big issue with that. And then her friend has invented these revolvers that just doesn't shoot at just one bullet but several, of course, and they are brought back to the palace and she is thrown into the royal court once again that kind of hates her. I didn't have that many expectations before this. I had just read a lot of different other YA books that like felt into a lot of things that was just like okay for me, but I really enjoyed this. It's like 500 pages long, and yes, it is a bit slow sometimes, but I just really just started to like the characters because it's also told from the point of view of the prince as well. And like I even like their relationship and just also all the different things we started to figure out, like what was even behind everything. The magic was very interesting. I like want a spin-off to follow the people with magic in this because like none of the main characters has that kind of magic. Kate has wilder magic, which is like illegal, and she can like talk to animals and stuff, but they like mage magic, and like that's other issues she has, by the way. But I just really enjoyed the world and the characters. I was very pleasantly surprised with this. I thought it was very interesting and I just really enjoyed it, and it just says how you shouldn't like judge just because it sounds like a very typical YA book. YA typical is not a bad thing, it just can be executed in a way that is interesting because you read it so much before. But this was just something I really enjoyed and I would recommend it a lot, and I give it like 4 out of 5 stars, or 3.5 or 3.75 perhaps. I then read Flame in the Mist by Renee Adier, and this one is a book inspired by Japan and just like Japanese mythology, etc. This one follows Mariko, who is going to marry the son of the emperor, but on the way they are attacked by bandits. The bandit that attack her is from the Black Clan, and she decides to infiltrate the Black Clan to take revenge on them and kill them because they try to kill her basically, or like at least reveal them for like authorities to take them down. And like I really like Mariko. She like was a character that found her courage and I liked her development, etc. I loved that her brother, for example, is a samurai and like he tries to find her and save her, and I just generally like the Black Clan and you know everything Japanese inspired. I enjoy. Of course, hello, I was literally in Japan reading this, and there's different words and expression in his, and I understood all of them because, you know, studying Japanese, and I felt very cool. But at the same time, I feel like parts of it could have been more developed, etc. But also there is a sequel, of course. I feel like I see a pattern in Renee Eddington's books. I have read Wrath on the Dawn, where like the book ended in a certain way, and then The Beautiful, which ended in a certain way, and this one ended in a certain way. It's not the same plot, but it ends in this very, of course, cliffhanger, but open where like in last minute something else happens, and it keeps happening in her books. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I just see a pattern of it, and I just find it interesting because it's the same author. I do enjoy how Renee writes, and I do enjoy her stories. I think her premises always sounds like super awesome, and then the book is just like, it's not bad, it's just like doesn't sound what the premises give you. Also, the romance is very predictable. I feel like this is another romance where people would be like, oh, they're enemy to lovers, but like it's so obvious, and I never really feel like proper enemies. So I feel like it doesn't really count, but overall, like, I did enjoy the book. I want to read a sequel, even though they cover changed, and this one is so much prettier, but alas, whatever. I gave it like 3.5, 3.75 out of 5 stars. I then read The Started Screen by Varshney Chakshi. This one is her debut novel, and I'm finally catching up on all her works, and I'm so happy about that. This is a Greek mythology inspired book, but also with Indian culture elements to it instead of Greek elements, and I just loved it. I knew I was going to enjoy it, and I heard like mixed things about it, so I was a bit worried of how I would feel about it, but I just loved the story. It was so beautiful, and it follows Maya, who is one of the daughters of the ruler in her land. He wants her to marry her away to basically be a sacrifice to stop this war that the country has been in for a long time. But then this dude Amar shows up, and it's like, come with me and I will make you the queen of the stars, of everything, and I will give you everything. And she goes with him, and then why and who he is, and like all that comes up. And like Varshney writes very like lush and beautiful, like see that it's not for everyone, and I thought like I would enjoy it, as I said, but I didn't think it was going to be this such a story of magnitude that really just went into my heart. I felt like I really was soaring, and just it felt like just beautiful fairy tale. It felt like it was like an old mythical story, even though there is like elements in it that you have seen it before, obviously, but I mean like a certain trope that I'm tired of and don't enjoy that much. Alas, in Lord of the Smoking Bone, this also was a thing, and it was a thing here, but like it was done kind of beautifully and nice here, though still like I don't hate the trope, I'm just like tired of it and think like it's a weird way to do things. I did like love the book a lot more than I thought I would, and I gave it like 4.5 out of 5 stars. And again, I can see it's not for everyone, but it's really beautiful. I'm so excited to read the spin-off and the short story collection. I have them both, and I'm just excited because yeah, it's just, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be so beautiful, and just yeah. I then read Stolen Enchantress by Amber Argyle, and this one follows Larkin, and she lives in this village where they avoid the forest because the forest has been taking young girls from the village for like forever. And it's the Pied Piper meeting Beauty and the Beast, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it has elements from those stories, and it's really interesting to find out what's really going on, why the girls are missing, like what's going on, and like can Larkin resist the beast, etc. And all of those elements are really good when we find out what's happening. It's like, oh, it's very interesting. I think it's like a twist on a fairy tale always, but at the same time it uses really a long time to get there. We go a lot of back and forth, and I think this is to like make it more natural for like Larkin to fall for the beast and like to like be kidnapped basically, and it's to like make it more okay. That's what I feel like the author tried to do, but it's still not okay, and it still just took a long time. There's a lot of back and forth in the beginning. I was surprised how long time it took to get to a certain point, and then when we finally at that point we go back on it, and I thought that was a weird way to like go back and forth in the story. It made the story less impactful, and like it just made it a bit chaotic. But I'm still interested actually to see where we go. I had like zero expectations, and not like, didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, but it was interesting. And I definitely, the story grew on me after a while, and I'm curious to see where we'll go. So I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars, and I'm hopefully gonna pick up the sequels at some point. I then read Vinyl by Sophia Elaine Hanson, and this one is a YA dystopia. I didn't actually know it was dystopia before going into it. I had heard about it for a while, but I didn't know it was dystopia. It's a while since I read one. And yes, it does fall into the typical dystopia. The society is controlled in a certain way. Here they have these headphones here, air injections put in them since birth, and it's played this thing called the music that basically brainwashes the people and make them content, and like make them not rebel, and like make them do as they want. It's used as a torture device, it's used to control them, and it's obviously not a good thing. And the main character Ronja fights with a family to survive because they're poor, and like they're on the lowest in the society. Like I do experience that a lot in the recent books, like in Enchantress they were poor, and some other books they're poor. That's an ongoing theme. It's fine. It's tragic that it has to be like that in the books, but yeah. And like she finds out that like the society is bad and finds out what's really going on, like joins the resistance. And it's not even a spoiler, because at the point when you read so much YA dystopia, it just falls into the same recipe. And what I always find fascinating about them is the ways the governments choose to control the populace, and like how, why, etc. And I always find that interesting to find out this mystery, because it's always kind of a mystery. But at the same time, it does fall into like the love cliches, insta love, and like all other like resistant things that I am just like, yeah, when you read a lot of YA dystopia, you get to the point where it's just like, it's fine. But I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. It like falls in the middle of the tree. I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. It was fine, and I have the rest of the series on Kindle, so I guess I will read that eventually. It was an okay book, and it was enjoyable at some points, and some points it was just like, I don't really care. So yeah. I then read Iceballs by Amy Kaufman, and this one is a middle grade, and is Amy Kaufman is like the author of other really popular YA series, and this one is set in a world where there are ice wolves and scorched dragons. We follow a pair of twins where we have Anders, if we follow his point of view. He turns into an ice wolf, and his sister Aina turns into a scorched dragon, and that's basically impossible to have like twins being able to turn into one of each of them, and also like they also like live on the streets because they fight to survive. And then he needs to go to this wolf academy to get a certain skill set so he can go after his sister and save her, because she was basically kidnapped by the other scorched dragons. And the scorched dragons and the ice wolves have been at like a war for like a long time, and we find out like many secrets, because like there's a lot of things that the ice wolf people in charge haven't told the people. So yeah, there's like different mysteries there, and we have like the main character who is witty and fun, and 12-year-old boy doing his best to survive, getting friends, getting a family for the first time, like except for his sister, belonging somewhere. There's lots of different elements. It reminded me a bit of like the Dragon Prince-ish story. I just really enjoyed it. I really like this cover. The sequel's already out. I'm behind on everything, excuse me, and I need to read it because I really enjoyed it. It was a very cute middle grade. I would definitely recommend, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And read Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. This one is a YA fantasy, and it's kind of inspired by Asian fantasy, I would say, just because of the names and the places, how the society and etc. was. But the main character is kind of white, so kind of, that's what I assumed, because she's blonde and everything, so that was kind of weird. Follows Sora and her Jamin, and they are Taigas, who are like the warriors of the society, and I has been growing up all the life training to be these warriors. They're still trainees and stuff, and like they live in this really prosperous kingdom, which is on an island, and like the emperor is really nice and everything. But 10 years ago her brother did try to usurp the throne, and maybe he's coming back now, surprise surprise. So like the concept of this, the ideas and like the magic and everything, I really enjoyed it. But it's told in like the weirdest way I've ever read a book, because we are being told exactly to the point what the villain is gonna do. and then it happens, and then the characters experience it, and then they meet each other, and then they tell what had happened. We kind of get told several times something that happens like 3 different times in different situations, and like we see it from different perspectives, and it's kind of weird because it keeps being very repetitive and also very predictable, because we are told all the time what's going to happen, which makes the book like the most boring thing, because we already told what's going to happen. Usually when people do this, it's because something else is gonna happen, like something unexpected, but that didn't happen here. So I'm just like so confused to like why it was written in this way. It's written in like the weirdest way ever. I never read anything like it. It feels like very unedited for some reason. Like it just doesn't feel like a complete story because it's just repetitive and all over the place. I thought it was really weird how it was written. I was very surprised because I didn't expect that at all. Like I have been curious of this author for a while. I have her other duology and like I've seen good things about it, so I was excited for it, but it was just told in such a weird way. I would probably pick up the sequel just because I want to complete the series or the duology, but it was very disappointing and really weird way to tell a story. So I give it like 2 out of 5 stars because it just didn't match with me at all. I thought it was so weird and strange, and it didn't work. Going from that and something that definitely worked for me was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. This one was an absolutely remarkable book. I of course had heard about it for a long while. I had it since release and I haven't read it until now, and I was just like, yeah, I knew it was about April May who like one day goes out to New York City and she's this big statue, and she films a video and posts it on YouTube and becomes really viral and really famous in a really short amount of time. So there's a lot about like fame and like what to do when you get famous and like how that is, but it's about like humanity so much more than that. There's this mystery, the statues, like how did they get there and why, and I was just like, yeah, why? I was so obsessed with this mystery, like I couldn't stop reading this book. I was so invested and interested, and I thought it was written so well, and just like the reflection about society, how we need to work together, coming together about this one cause, and also the different perspectives of how some people would react to something and some other people would react differently. It was just all natural and well done. It's like in our society in this day, and I was so impressed by this. I knew I was gonna like it, as I said, but I didn't think I was like gonna be obsessed with it and like read it super quickly. It's like a very clever book, and I just can't wait to see what the sequel will have, and I give it like 4.5 out of 5 stars. Like it was a very high rated book because I just loved it. Maybe 5 out of 5, I don't even know, but yeah, it was so great. Okay, I then read 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. She's the author also of The Hating Game, and she writes adult romance novels. This one follows Darcy, who is like a girl not like other girls, and her grandmother has passed away, and they are going to furniture rebuild her house to sell it for a lot of money, and the one who's going to do that and the leader of like the building project is Tom, her brother's best friend, and also her friend when she was like a kid as well. She's really horny on him, and the whole story is about them being horny on each other and then realizing they're horny on each other and then being horny on each other. And like I don't mind horniness in books, okay, I'm trash for that, that's fine, but it was just nothing for me. I really don't like how Sally Thorne writes, because she writes really weird sentences and I keep rereading them because I don't understand what they're saying. Her writing is just so jaggery and weird, and like how she writes emotions and how she writes things, it just doesn't make sense to me, and how she describes people just really puts me off, like how she describes Tom as like just her descriptions that make me feel a bit nauseous. I'm just like, oh, okay, that does not sound attractive. So I just realized that Sally Thorne is not an author for me, I think, because I didn't like The Hiding Game and how it was written and the characters and stuff there either. There's just nothing interesting in these romances for me, and I would love to be like really invested in them and stuff. Nothing appealing to this book, and also like the characters were annoying and I just didn't feel anything for them, and the plot was boring. So yeah, I rated it like 2 out of 5 stars, and it was quite disappointing, and I don't want to think about it anymore. I then read Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, which I ended up with an ARC thanks to my friend Justine. This one is being released on the 3rd of March, probably after this video is up, but also I have a full video review up on my channel of this, so I won't speak long at all about it here because I don't want to I've already been here for like ages. It's the next installment in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, the first in a new series, the sequel series to Different Devices, yada yada yada, and it was great. Yeah, my enjoyment was like 5 out of 5 stars. I think like the plot and everything else was like 4 out of 5 stars, maybe 4.5. So it will be like a 4.5 rating overall. The stories just get better and better. The diversity is like so good, and like the characters, relationships, everything, the new things we get, how she keeps giving new original stories to the same world that she's been in for so long. I think it's amazing that she manages to do that. It was a great book. Check out my review, I will link it down below. The last book that I read for February was The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and this one is a YA fantasy inspired by Arabian myths, I believe. And this one follows Nira, who finds out that who accidentally summons a Djinn slash Adava named Dara, and then he's like, oh, you have powers, we need to take you to this magical city. We also follow Ali, who is in the magical city and is one of the princes there. And there's this whole conflict between the different tribes, different Djinn tribes, and just like mixed blood and like pure blood and all that. And it's very interesting and intricate, yes, but also the book falls flat for me because they used such a long time, by the way, to get that city, because they were gonna use a long time so they can fall in love. And also just like in general, the story falls flat because there's just a lot of dead space in it. I felt like it didn't keep me engaged to the story. It has many great elements, but it didn't keep me engaged, and it felt in a lot of cliches and stuff. I do think that like the elements it had, it just needed to be executed and make me more ooh to the whole story, but it didn't do that for me. Like, I liked it, I just didn't love it as much as I thought I would, and I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. And I will definitely continue the series because it has a lot of good elements. As I said, like, I loved a lot of things going on. It was just very flat in the way it was told to me. So yeah, I'm hoping for more greatness in the next few books in the series. And that's all. Like, that's all my books. I hope you enjoyed this wrap up. I know I've been here forever. I had to refilm because my camera stopped filming without me noticing. I hate my life. Wrap-ups are just a great pain. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. You will see me soon in the next one. I really liked how I just read some really great on top-notch books, but also a lot of like low level rating, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Thank you, bye!